Okay, thank you everyone for coming. We'll go ahead and get started. My name's Rosemary. I know many of you. Alan and I are co-hosts today, and you know Alan Gould. The recording for today's seminar will be found on the YouTube channel and also on our seminar archive page on our website. So I'll put those links in the chat during the meeting. Next month, we'll have Jay Lamb. He'll lead our seminar with a seminar on opening the universe to everyone, how to host sensory-friendly programs in planetariums and museums. He had an article in sometime in the last year in the Planetarian on this topic. It'll be at the same time, 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 5 weeks from today on May 9th. So if you are just joining, please put your name and where you're from in the chat. We don't have a set time to end. We can take a pause on the hour and let people say goodbye if you need to leave. And Alan's going to give Jeff a very short introduction.
Hi, everybody. Good morning or good evening, or good afternoon. Um, I know Jeff from way back when. He was working at Lawrence Hall of Science as an undergrad student. And then he was so good doing planetarium programs, we hired him as a career staff person there. And he's been a major force in planetarium, uh, especially audience participation things, ever since then. And he got hired by NASA to run programs at JPL for education, including the Museum of Alliance. And now, as you can see from his shirt, he works for Sky-Skan. Um, I I will not elaborate further other than I have enormous respect and and value him as a friend. So with that introduction, um, this is a discussion. So Jeff, maybe you can kick off the discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. There is no better friend in the whole planetarium world than you, to be perfectly honest. There really isn't. I think a lot of people would attest to that. But yes, so hi. I did want to do this because it's an exciting time to say the least. The old Chinese curse of "May you live in interesting times" comes to mind. Okay, and we just wanted to have this discussion. That's all. So what I've done is I've put a link to the virtual whiteboard that I'm showing on my screen now. Hopefully you can see it okay. There is a QR code if you feel like doing this on your phone, but obviously the computer experience is going to be better if you can just click the link in the chat. And if anybody is just joining and you need the link, hopefully somebody can watch the chat and repaste the link whenever anybody asks. But we'll start here at this very appropriate cover image that I generated with AI. There you go. If you're interested in the actual prompt that I used, if you just click on one of the items, I think I locked all the stuff that's important down. So you should only be able to interact with the stuff that you're supposed to be able to interact with. So you can click that, and you can just very simply go and see the actual prompt that I used. And of course, you should be able to, actually continue it if you want to mess with it and see what it can do if you've never done that before. I chose Gemini for image creation only because out of all the ones that I've tested, I have the best experience. But it's, if you've played with any of these models before, it's incredibly subjective what you get out of these models. And so I just happened to use Gemini for this one. And it looked fine on the first pass, actually, which was surprising. I usually have to iterate several times, but it looked fine, and so I just used it. And again, that's just a cover image, so it doesn't really matter. But if you scroll down, there's a little quick tutorial if you feel like messing around with stuff. I gave you a little practice area, and then I have all these flowchart arrows, but you can hold down Control or pinch to zoom, and you can scroll up and down to zoom in and out. And you can see there's a whole map of stuff that's already been sent to me, thanks to John and Rosemary, and everybody else, and Alan, who all who sent me stuff in advance. And you guys can feel free to post. There's the green section is for questions. I wonder, the nice little KWL chart for anyone in the know. And then there's also projects that you personally would like to share. We have a couple here already, just as examples. And what I want to do is I do want to just spend 5-ish minutes just to let people ask questions. If you don't want to do this, I can just be the note taker. You can type it in the chat. You can unmute and say your question, whatever you want, or say your project that you want to share. If you want to just go directly into the whiteboard and start posting stuff, that's totally fine. So we'll just focus on these two sections right now. Either a project you want to share that you've done, or if you want to ask a question.
I have 20 different Google Docs of random notes about scripting for the planetarium. And I would like to have AI just put them together in one document. Clean it up, essentially. And I can give it guidelines as to the topics or how to divide things up, but
and that's what you're talking about when you asked about Notebook LM, right?
I did ask about that in terms of putting in like documents. But I guess if they're Google Docs, I think they could read them. But if they're like other documents, I think I have to have like a Notebook LM to put them in.
Well, the time is up. So this is actually a great segue into what we're going to do next, is that if you see something that you want to hear more about, then what I'm going to have you do is, if you're online, I'm going to have you copy it. We're going to try and keep this here. Let's say Rosemary really wants to learn about Notebook LM, which is exactly what she's talking about, which is making your own private knowledge base, right? A searchable knowledge base through AI. So Notebook LM, so all you do is you click on it. I'm gonna hit Control-C to copy. You can also right-click. I'm gonna copy this, and I'm gonna come over here to this nice little chart that I'm hoping is somewhat familiar to people. On the x-axis, I have something that's easy and quick to discuss, all the way to very hard and long to discuss. On the y-axis, I have something that's less important and a topic that's more important to you. And then I'm just going to choose somewhere qualitatively on this graph, like, do I think it's an easy topic to discuss? And do I think it's really important? I do. So we'll say, I already did it. So I just copy and paste. So I'll paste it there. There you go. So what is Notebook LM? And then I actually do have, for those of us who like asynchronous discussions, I do have all these different squares that branch out from this chart. And then here you go. Here's the section for anyone who has experience with Notebook LM to post about it. But basically, it's I just posted this one little video. But the idea is that you can click on this video yourself, and it's literally only 2 minutes long. But it's basically exactly what you said, Rosemary. So we can actually take PDFs and text and whatever, right? It says it's PDF, text, markdown, audio, even if you have an audio notes system, and you upload it to this one database. That's okay. So here's the biggest thing about AI is that they say it's private, right? Google has said specifically here that they don't use your data in Notebook LM to train their AI. That depends on whether you even trust that that's actually true, because there is no law against lying, okay? And two, that very well could change 1 month, 2 months, 10 years down the line, who knows, right? That policy is just a policy change away from being not true. So Rosemary, so if you have a whole bunch of documents, the only thing, of course, is payment, right? Because all these AIs have these free tiers, literally just to get you hooked. They give you something for free, and their hope is that you get hooked and addicted and dependent on it, so that you actually pay them money. And it's, I mean, let's be perfectly honest, it's a very, very successful business model. The payment here is if you want more tokens or want more searches or want more files or whatever, but they give you this little taster for free. And eventually you get so dependent on it that you just have to keep paying them for the rest of your life, basically. And that's how they make money. And it's not, it has this connotation of being evil, but it is a legitimate business model, and it's how they can offer this to everybody for free while still making a profit as a company, while still being a successful company. So so it is what it is. Like that is the business model of today.
Can I ask?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm starting to get the hang of the tool here, but I'm only starting to get the hang of it,
totally fine.
and I'm wondering what is. Could you explain a little bit what is Notebook LM? I've never heard of
Yes.
it.
Yeah, so Notebook LM, again, it's a quick video there if you want to watch it later. But the idea is that you take all of personal files, your personal files, like Rosemary said, you have all these scripts, right? You want to learn, and you want an AI to study it, remember it, and you want it to respond based off of this text, as opposed to ChatGPT, for example, which is basically everything on the internet. ChatGPT is just grabbing everything on the internet it can. But in this case, it's just learning off of your specific files, which they argue you'd have to actually be a tester and researcher to actually determine this. But they argue that that makes it more accurate, less prone to hallucinations, and just generally and more energy efficient, even if that's a concern for you, because it doesn't have to comb through the whole internet to find your answer. It knows that you want your answer to be in this like PDF, for example.
So
So
can
yeah.
I include trusted sources that are linked?
Hmm.
So it's a combination of things I put in and links that I give it to
Yes.
tell it those sources are good.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think I was looking at last night. The limit is 50 sources for the free tier, right? But obviously, again, they want you to pay for more tiers, for higher tiers, so that you can add more sources, get more use out of it. Um, but I should mention that I don't advertise for Google. I'm not saying that this is a good thing. And the coolest thing about right now, literally right now, April of 2026, when we're recording this, is that you anyone can have a local AI that's completely yours, completely private, offline even, and you can do it relatively easily. And I don't know if this counts as irony, but the way you would, as a layperson, the way you would set this up for yourself is to use another AI to help you set it up, right? You would use a public model like ChatGPT, and you say, I want to set up my own local AI. How do I do it? And it will give you like the step by step on how to do it. And it just requires some hardware on your side. But the best thing for us, specifically for planetarium people, is that we have a bunch. I should say probably, have a bunch of old like GPUs, a bunch of old hardware that you could repurpose into your own local AI model. Like if you ever upgraded your computers, you probably have a stash of old computers. So like I literally have 3 computers sitting within arm's length of me, right? That I can use, right, for a whole bunch of different purposes, and and so you totally can. So it is no longer in the realm of just people who like command lines, who know command lines. Anyone using like those free chat GPTs or Gemini or Claude Code, especially, like anyone can go to them and say, please teach me how to set this up for myself. And then you have your own system, your own ecosystem. Does that make sense? Okay.
It makes sense.
Okay.
I actually, I'm also curious, at the risk of you're dominating the discussion here, I have another question for you. What are how many projects have you done using AI, and what were the most successful ones?
I do have some specific examples that I was willing to share publicly here. So specifically the coding is what I find it most useful for, the coding, because the AI is a computer and it knows our language. The whole point of coding is to convert what you think into a language that a computer can understand. But AI is a computer that understands your language, right? So it can actually translate what you want into computer code pretty easily. And it's getting better literally daily. It's getting better. Every day it's getting better. So I have a little coding section here, which has specific examples for HTML, JavaScript, Python, and different operating systems. So this is something that you can actually go through and check out yourself. But just as an example, here is one of my early ones. This was one of the ones that I just like, oh my gosh, ChatGPT is brand new. What can I do with it? Right. And so this one, again, you just click on it. It'll send you to this conversation that I made public. It's totally fine. But I had just asked it to make me a little web page to do something fun, just as a test. And it did it pretty well. And you can actually see the result here, which if you haven't heard of these videos, they're pretty fun, right? If you've never heard of these YouTubers, I'm wondering where you've been for the last 10 years. But they did, you might have missed this one, they did a synchronized video. And the whole point was like you needed two phones or a laptop and a phone, and you had to press play at the exact same time. Except this one, I just synced it in the web page, in the embedded web page. So that's that. So if you haven't tried that yet, you can. But yeah, so again, all that code came from ChatGPT. And again, you no longer have to memorize, books and books of computer code anymore. You ask what it wants. And again, you can look at my entire conversation with it. This was the entire conversation. If you just want to see what I did, what I asked, that's totally fine, up to you.
That term conversation is something that, well, I have very limited experience with AI, but the one thing I put in the platform here was about Jason Trento, who is up in Northern California. I was tasked by the PPA conference committee to make a list or a spreadsheet of all the planetariums in the PPA region. And so I started to go, okay, I'm going to go to the worldwide database and start copying things out of there. My first impulse was to contact Lionel and have him do that for me, but then Jason said he already did it with AI, and so I put in the platform here the link to it. It's on the PPA website now. The result. So that's a pretty rudimentary use of AI. But that's when I first heard the term conversation, because Jason was saying he gave me the conversation that he used in order to create that.
I think I'm going to put that under a new section, and I'll say data processing, maybe.
Okay.
I'll say data processing.
Now, another question I had was about open space. Have you done has anybody done anything with AI scripting or programming in open space? I'm not sure if that would be HTML or
they call it Lua. They call it Lua, 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 yeah. But yes. So in fact, I probably should have put it in there if I remembered. But yeah, you can make a whole, like I said, it's actually an HTML page. One of my favorite uses of open space is to actually run it off of an HTML page, and you can actually have it make you a control page for open space. So I actually had it made. I had made a control page for Constellations Tonight, actually, Alan. So I had that going for me, and that was mostly done in using ChatGPT.
Okay, I put in here one of my examples that was my most success with AI, which was creating a learning path for learning Lua specifically for open space. Told it what I already knew how to use and what I was going to use it for, and told it, to use the open space API for its language interpretation. It created a whole learning path for me to jump into, to figure out, and it's been working pretty well for me too.
Yep. Yeah, so again, any sort of coding. In fact, if you go down to the bottom where it's less important stuff, I have literally a playlist of different resources that I've been watching over the last few months. And this one just came out, I can't remember, a few weeks ago. So this one, he talks to a cybersecurity researcher about the recent, it's called Mythos. And apparently, to sum it up, apparently Anthropic, Claude Code, they created a new model specifically for cybersecurity testing, and they set it on to these different software, all these different softwares. And it found thousands of bugs and exploits, and they're not releasing it publicly because it's so dangerous. And so they're turning it over to the researchers and to the vendors right now so that they can actually try and fix some of these critical bugs and exploits. He does an interview with an actual cybersecurity researcher, and he talks all about it. So it's a long one, but it's worth it. You can watch it on 2x speed too. I've found that incredibly useful. YouTube can do 2x speed really, really easily. Okay. All right, let's try something else. Let's pick something from one of the questions, because we talked about projects. Let's see. Can AI extrapolate from regular video to fisheye? I like that one. Medium importance. And that actually goes kind of with up here. I'll put it down here. But for John specifically too, or anyone who's interested in AI upscaling, yes. I mean, anything you can do with video or images, like you can do it. It's because the thing that I always tell students specifically about digital images and digital video is that it's all just math. It's all numbers, right? It's not actually a picture. It's not actually an image of you or your dog or your baby or whatever. It's just numbers in pixels. And so you can manipulate those numbers in any possible way you can think of. And so it's trivial. It's, in hindsight, it's trivial for AI to just take those numbers and make them any other numbers, right? Literally any other numbers. And the tricky part is, making it actually make sense to the human brain. Right. So there's a whole bunch of different services, different products that you can look up. In fact, the one that I had heard of initially back in the day is now like the worst one, obviously, because that's how it goes, right? The one that was really famous when this first started, like is now like the worst, the behind the pack, because that's what happens when you don't innovate. But yeah. Okay.
So another question that comes to my mind is since AI is being used to make videos of different sorts, I mean, there's animation. I mean, there's like animations, and then there's, well, I guess they're all really animations. You can have very realistic looking people in them. My question, a question comes to my mind is, how does that relate with Blender? I mean, would you use AI in using Blender, or would you just use AI?
Right, because I'll give you an example. This one, right? This is all stuff that you can theoretically bring into your dome. Okay, you can give people a virtual tour inside your dome. The problem is, and this happened when I was there, I asked them, well, can I have the 360 images? And they're like, no, because they're not 360 images. They're actual individual tiles. So even though it looks seamless, each one of these is a separate image taken by whatever vendor they chose, right? So it's not an actual 360 image, okay? And so the NASA people told me, no, it's impossible, you can't do it, right? And obviously, so the first thing I tried when I left was I asked Blender if it could stitch it together, and guess what? It did. And so I have this series of things where I can tell Blender how to download the tiles. I can tell it how to process the tiles. I can tell it how to make the model that it was supposed to be, and I can actually have it export as a 360. So this is all in Python because Blender runs in Python. Blender runs on Python. So what is my Python example? Oh, right. Okay. So this is close to Valerie. If you're still using the old standard Colab, Google Colab, this is the conversation that I used to program that. And the result is, you can see this right here. Scrolling all the way down here. I did all of them, but there you go. So this is a data analysis program that is used by the Exoplanet Watch System, which is the NASA Citizen Science Program. If you've never heard of it, it's great, right, Valerie? And yes, so, yeah, and so anyone can use this and analyze exoplanet data, is the idea. And underneath all this is this code. underneath all this code. So, but yes, Blender runs on Python, and one of the ideas for an upcoming session would be to actually have a workshop where we would actually just, all be doing something together in Blender, Python, AI, whatever. So if that's of interest to you, let us know.
I will ask a question, and I'd love to hear from Jeff or anybody. I'm trying to think more about how to create some artistic visuals that we might use on the dome, like a mix of videos and art, as well as, what our digital system already offers. What do people think is the best AI tool for that? Because I've tried a whole bunch of image generation ones, and some are great and some are not. So if anybody has any suggestions about ones that can warp nicely for the dome and be projected well, I'd love to hear that.
I'll try to answer. I don't have anyone that I prefer. What I used to tell my students that are trying AI is that you don't need to do the whole picture at once. You can just ask AI to create the background and then to create the character you have. Don't take the whole image at once. You can ask the AI to have a picture with transparent background, so you can have layers in your image. So I don't have anyone that I prefer for pictures, but that's my tip.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, and I'm going to put that into the deserves its own session category, because there is no best. Right? What is best today literally will be different tomorrow. But I will say that this one, for example, I generated it in Gemini. ChatGPT and Claude, personally speaking, I haven't had that great of a success in terms of media generation. And I was looking it up. I just wanted to confirm that, yes, the OpenAI video generator, I heard, I haven't read any of these stories, but I heard that it was too good, and they literally shut it down because it was too good. It was getting to be problematic. So you can just see, that looks real. It's all AI. It's all AI generated. There is no way for anybody to tell that is not real. Right? So they did shut it down. Yeah. I mean, what have you exactly been looking for, Valerie? Is there something specific that you want to share? A conversation that you want to share?
No, not in particular. We're just kind of starting on this adventure. We have some plans to make a specific planetarium show over the summer. So I've been tasking my students with trying to figure out what the best AI tools might be to get some of the artistic visuals we might want to use. So no, I don't really have anything to share yet. We're kind of just starting, and I'm looking for advice from others.
Okay. Then the first piece of advice I would say is don't neglect your own artistic community.
Sure.
Right, Alan? Because this is something that Alan does a lot. He actually commissions artwork from local artists and just say, hey, I need this, and I need this, and I need this. And yes, it costs some money, but there's the ethical implications. There's the public image of if you're exclusively using AI generated artwork in your planetarium show. There's some sort of optics around that right now, right? And being able to say this was made with 100% human-made art has some measure of value today in 2026. And even if you commission, say, an artist who actually then goes on to use AI, right? They actually, being artists, they might, I guess depends on the artist, right? They might have a better sense of the tools that are out there in terms of art AI. But just to give you an example, here is my conversation that I did back on Halloween when I wanted a K-pop Demon Hunter's jack-o'-lantern, right? And so you can see the iterations, and it's not bad. It's not bad. It did what I wanted. And that's all I can really ask of anything, any tool, right? Does it do what you want? And so the other thing to think about that I put somewhere here, one of these is about the environmental impacts of AI, right? Because this seems free. It seems totally free and effortless, right? You're just using the computer. But the AI models suck up so much energy. They suck up so much energy. There's so many carbon emissions that come out of using AI frivolously, is what I will say. So just like I say, like you wouldn't leave your lights on if you're not in the room, okay? Turn off the lights, shut off your projectors, all that stuff. Save electricity whenever you can. Don't just drive to the corner store when you can walk to the corner store, that kind of thing. Same thing with AI. If you're not being intentional about it, if there's not a real good reason to do it, it's best just to avoid it if you can. Again, don't waste electricity is a no-brainer, I hope, for people. Okay.
So Jeff, is that mostly true, like if you're generating artwork, videos, or how true is it if you're just like having it programmed for you?
Obviously, okay, so one of the problems is that these companies, they're not obligated to release that information. That's one of the biggest problems, is that we cannot actually see how much energy, say, a query produces or takes. That's one of the biggest issues right now, is that they want transparency. The environmentalists, the activists, they want is transparency. They want to know how much more energy these individual things are taking, so that other people can take steps to mitigate or address these issues. So we don't know. We don't know is the answer.
We don't know how much water they take either. The water
Yes.
is the other for cooling the server farms.
Yeah.
They're using water,
Yeah,
I think, in a lot of cases.
The biggest through line for all of these fears of AI is that regulation cannot keep up. Laws and regulations, they just cannot keep up. Things are changing. Like I said, daily things are changing. Okay. And it's just not possible for any sort of ruling body, regulating body, to keep up with what's happening. And so we're like I said, we're in a very exciting time right now. Thanks, Valerie, for that.
I have a colleague. I have a colleague, an astronomer actually, who is deep into education, Carl Pennypacker, who has been diving into AI to create simulations. Like simulations of how the solar system works, or how the dinosaurs got extinct, or what the dinosaurs ate. They're simulations that students can use. And we're also thinking about having students create their own, learn AI by creating their own simulations. And I'm thinking that the use of a simulation in a planetarium program, that would be kind of an audience participation thing where you can get input from the audience as to what to put into the simulation parameters.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to do with students today, is that if you have like a workshop or a summer camp or something, to build some sort of AI into it, is to be more intentional about it than to just let people explore willy-nilly. I think that's really important for us as educators to tackle, because the poor classroom teachers are dealing with so much now. But we as informal educators, this is why I love being an informal educator, we can just embrace it and use it as a teaching moment for all of our students. We don't have to be beholden to, say, the standards or testing or anything like that. And we can actually just do a real world experience of, this is what it's like to work with AI.
It becomes critical actually as to what is a good way to use AI, because you don't want to encourage people to just create their term paper.
Yeah, and I'll
using
point
AI,
out,
professors are complaining about that.
Yeah, and I'll point out a couple of specific talks specifically about that, about like how to use AI in education. So these up here, I separated because they're specifically about education and using AI properly, quote unquote properly, right? Because there is research that if you use it improperly, it does make you dumber. It really does. And it's exactly the same way that, I don't memorize any phone numbers anymore. Someone was literally last week, my wife asked me, what was my old home phone number back in Virginia? And I could not remember the area code. I had to look it up. And that's just what it's like. And the other argument, of course, is that, well, doesn't that free our brains, that part of our brain, to do something else? And yes, but some research suggests that students aren't doing that. Students aren't using their brain.
You're not old enough to
else.
claim senility, Jeff.
No. But it's just that, I haven't had to think about phone numbers for the longest time. And that part of my brain has just atrophied from lack of use. So the key to using AI in education is to make sure that we're using it to augment critical thinking and researching, and not doing it for them. And one of the points in one of the talks was that it's because the classroom system, again, this is why it's so powerful for us to be informal educators outside of that system. The classroom system has always been, and this is one of the biggest critiques, is that it's always been teach to the test, right? All you care about is that grade. All you care about is that number. And obviously, if an AI can get you a better number with less effort and less time, why wouldn't any student use it to get that better number, right? If that's the incentive, if that's the carrot at the end of the road, right? Obviously, everyone's going to use it. But in informal education, we can promote the love of learning for the sake of love of learning, right? And in which case, that is the best use of AI, where it can actually help you truly learn about things that you are passionate about, things that you love, and things that matter to you in ways that would be otherwise impossible. Yeah. And even like all these coding things, how long would it take me to even learn HTML, like period, right? How long would it take me to learn HTML just to do this tiny little web page that I did, right? But AI was able to do it really quickly, and it's something that enriched my life, enriched my understanding, and helped my critical thinking in terms of, I didn't actually just take the way, you might notice if you look at it closely, it doesn't look exactly the way that ChatGPT spit it out. I was able to change a couple of parameters to make it more like what I wanted. And that's kind of like the way that it's benefited me anyway. Let's see. John, did I address any of your questions? I think there was one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that what I was asking about, you just touched on it as the using AI as an audience.
Oh yeah, down here, yeah.
Yeah, asking if the AI was the audience and a human was doing a presentation in the planetarium. I mean, would the AI ask? I mean, how would the AI know what to ask if?
Yeah, I would say that I would approach that very carefully, because the thing that AI is really good at doing is creating echo chambers, right? It's because it's you say something and it says, "Oh, that's the best idea ever. You're doing great," right? Even when you're not. That's how it was trained. So that's how they act. But what it can do is it can be the mock audience. It can give someone who's super nervous, who really does not feel ready to do a presentation. It can be that scaffolding that you need. Again, I would just approach it very, very carefully, because I don't know if you guys have heard the horror stories, but there are instances where AI gets so sycophantic that it can literally cost somebody their life, right? I don't know if you've heard these stories, but they are out there. And so, yeah, again, just be careful. But yes, having it be a mock audience, asking it questions, saying, what do you think of this when I say this? That's something that AI can do easily. But again, the feedback loop nature, the echo chamber nature of AI makes it a treacherous and cautious road to be, at the very least.
Do we have any commercial content developers, planetarium in this group here? Because I'm wondering if they're using AI or if they're threatened by anybody being able to use AI
I
to
did
make
not
content.
pay
And then,
Alan for that segue. I did not pay him for that segue, but there you go.
but
So
there's wait,
the
wait, wait, wait. There's another aspect to it.
okay, go ahead.
The other related question is copyright.
Mm,
Okay,
yeah.
what is the deal
Yeah.
with
So
copyright with
somebody had
AI
asked
created
about
things?
credit. So giving credit, making sure people know that AI was used in a certain creation, whether it's coding or whatever. That's pretty important these days. I don't know if you've heard, again, this is another horror story, but there was a lawyer who used AI to create a case for his client, and the AI just made up cases, made up precedents. And so when he gave it to the judge, I don't remember what happened to him. I don't know if he got disbarred or whatever, but it did not work, is the answer. And he was publicly humiliated at the very least. So yes, so making sure you cite your sources is always relevant no matter what your source is. And the other tip that I can give you for using AI in this way is especially if you're using it for research, do make sure you ask it to cite its sources, right? Because it can do that. It can say, I got this information from this link, and then you can actually go check it yourself. So make sure you do that, especially if you're doing it for researching facts and whatever. But going back to what Alan was saying, so the commercial companies were not immune to all this AI hype. And so I have been using it in my development of dark matter, of Sky-Skan's dark matter. And we also do want to know, I mean, if you have any feedback of what kind of things would you want in an AI that controlled your dome? Like if you could talk to your dome and say, do this and do this, what would be the most important thing for you? So if you'd like to share a couple of things on here, but yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is to pick your brain on what would you want to see if we could develop an AI that controlled your dome. Like, what would be the most important thing to you? What would you want it to be like? What would you want the experience to be like?
I was thinking more along the lines of the content creators who create planetarium, recorded planetarium programs.
Yeah, I mean all the planetarium software can turn live presentations into recorded ones, right? It's the same coding. So yeah, so if you could say, fly me to Mars, please. Always be nice to your AIs. Fly me to Mars, please. Or I need a picture of, the solar system to scale, or whatever. What would be the most useful to you? What do you think you would use all the time? What do you think you would definitely need versus what would be a nice to have? Any of that stuff can go in this green section here, or you can just tell me now. Now would be good. That would be good.
Well, this is kind of like having a super assistant. Like if two people are doing the planetarium program and the main person says, let's do this, and then the person at the controls does it.
Yeah, so
But-
some software is so complicated it requires two people, right?
But for especially if the person is in front of the people and the other person's can more easily press the buttons and so forth. But
yeah, I'm happy to say that Sky-Skan software is so easy that one person can operate.
That's okay.
Present. Yes.
Ours is
I could
pretty
say
easy too, but some vendors have planetarium programs that could probably go out on the internet. Some have systems that are completely closed, in which case, in my case, I would need to, for whatever library of images I might have, I would need probably to be able to have a unique description for each one to tell it to go put that image up.
I mean, this is where AI can save you a lot of time. Is it can actually understand images now pretty easily, right? So you don't have to go in and give it that metadata, that description. You can just put a library of images on your system, and then you can say, okay, AI, I need the image that I made of that wormhole graphic, right? Or that NASA graphic about Jupiter. Please show it now. One vision of it would be that you could just talk to it and it would just know which image you're talking about. In fact, that's a really good one. I'm gonna write that down. Okay, that's good. Thanks, Rosemary.
I've been
Okay.
brainstorming here a little bit, but others
Yeah.
should feel free to add.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of this whiteboard, is that you can be working on something totally different from what I'm talking about, and that's
No,
totally okay.
It was related to your stuff of what I would like AI to do.
Okay,
Just
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, just kind of like scaling images to the right resolution for your specific dome, or oftentimes I want to show something in the dome from a certain perspective, and it's a lot of button clicks or a lot of specific coding to move the eye and all that silly stuff. If it could just do that for me,
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
Okay, let's see. Was there anything else that popped up here? Oh, this is actually something that you tried. Okay. Great. Yeah, again, learning, and can I just double mention that open source content is especially wonderful to use with AI, because all of their documentation is online, publicly available. There's no worries about copyright or anything like that there. And you can just learn, just like, whether it's Blender or GIMP or, Linux or Nextcloud or whatever, it's all there, meant for you to learn, but AI can help you learn about it. And the best thing about those, can I just say, the best thing about using it for open source software is that there's no chance of it hallucinating, because it either works or it doesn't, right? And if it doesn't, then you just tell it doesn't and give it the error codes and everything, and then it will just help you, right? So unlike, say, researching facts for a show or whatever, you don't have to worry about hallucinations like that happening when you're just trying to make a program do what you want to do, because it either works or it doesn't. So that's one of my personal favorite ways to use AI, is to help me learn open source programming. This one is actually a model that I think the Adler does. The Adler has a summer camp where students make their own planetarium show.
That was me again. I don't want to
Oh, yeah.
dominate the conversation
No,
at all, but
please.
we have a college course where the students do this, and I have a lot of students who don't have an astronomy background. They're there to learn the coding, the computer science side of things. So I had them use AI this year to help learn a little astronomy, and they had to check their facts because it wasn't always correct. But, at least they got a starting script, and then they went in and edited it and changed it to their own story. But it took the burden off of them of learning everything about Pluto if they wanted to do a show about Pluto, and then writing it. You know what I mean?
Did you grade them on this, or was that just a kind of extracurricular kind of thing?
Yes, they did. They had assignments. So they used it to write like the script that they would read, and then they were using the planetarium software to put the visuals together. So they would read the AI edited script, the one that they had generated and edited, while they were doing the visuals as their show.
I'm curious then, what did your rubric for grading look like then, if you...
Yeah, that has been a fun discussion and challenge with a lot of other faculty. We've been kind of going back and forth thinking about, I'm not grading you on the factuality of AI, right? I'm grading you on your presentation skills and your editing skills of how do you make the show fun and what do your visuals look like. So yeah, because we don't want to grade them on what AI output. We want to grade them on what they actually created. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can also say that, going back to your AI art thing, is that AI doesn't, well, at least the AI that I've tried, doesn't understand the concept of full dome. It's just too niche, I think, at this point. So if you're trying to make a full dome visual, I've had really bad results with that. But making flat visuals and stuff is par for the course, what it can do. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and live speech. Okay, so this one, I can say that this is already a thing. You can already do that with the current thing. You don't even have to use, technically, it's not technically AI. It's not technically AI. They don't call it that anymore. I was just watching a talk where it's like, Siri was mind-blowing when it came out, but we wouldn't even call Siri AI anymore. Like that, it doesn't fall under the current definition of what most people call AI, right? And same thing with live captioning. That doesn't even necessarily fall under the purview of AI anymore. But yeah, that's pretty, I don't want to say easy, but it's certainly within the realm of doability for even for the lay person. So if you want to learn more about that, just let me know. I can show you how to do it. In fact, that might actually be, there you go. Let's try that. Yeah, and if you want to save this for yourself, at the very top, there's a little thing that says save to. You can actually just save it yourself so that if it ever goes away, if it ever gets broken or whatever, just let me know. I mean, again, like I said, it's a big conversation. If there's anything that I can do to help, I was telling Alan, my contact was always free to share. I'm going to put my email just in case you don't have it. There you go. That's in the chat. Always feel free to email me with anything at all. Happy to help, whether you have a Sky-Skan system or not.
Just a related question. If you were to give like 3 additional sessions or some small number like that, what topics how would you choose to divide that into?
Yeah, I would go off of Valerie's ideas and say, let's have a working session where we can all be creating something with AI just together. I think having just the shared space is a perfectly great use of our time. Okay. I mean, there are way worse things to do than to create together. And whether that's, you want something done in Blender, or you're trying to make a visual, or you want to code something, I think just setting aside time and space for us to be working in parallel, where we can just talk to each other. Hey, I'm having problems with this, or I see this. How do I get around it? I think that would be what I would propose. But you all can tell me what you think.
Something that occurs to me is that there on the IPS website, there's this free media section that has either flat screen or full dome images or videos. And I've always been at conferences. I've always been asking vendors to make things that are like 30-second or 2-minute or 5-minute things that are not full planetarium shows, but are things that could be used, resources, and make them less expensive, for people to buy. But the free media page is free. So the reason I thought of that is that if there was a group of people who are making full dome content, like short snippets of things that are for them, for planetarium shows that they are creating, and if they were interested in sharing it with other planetariums, that would be pretty cool to have a central repository for those things. It'd be hard to organize, actually. There would have to be some thought to how to organize it to be able to find things. It's kind of like the user group libraries.
Yeah, and again, organizing is something that that AI is really good at, and so you can even use it to brainstorm ideas for how to organize it. Right? You can use it to write things like metadata and whatever. What's another example that I had? I wanted to color markers for my planetarium, all the solar system objects, but I didn't want to use the default ones. So I just asked it, like, well, what would be a good color palette for each of the planets, right? And it was really good at doing that. And again, it types way faster than I do, so it had this whole thing, and I can have it format. Another thing is that it can format text really well. If you already have text, but you need it formatted in a certain way, it's really good at doing that. And yeah, so it's if that's a project that you want to take on, Alan, then AI can really help you, I think. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say one example that comes to my mind is that the summer reading program for libraries across the country this summer is about dinosaurs. It would really be great to have some dinosaur models or something that people can put into their own planetarium here and there. Even if they don't create something full with it, just be able to bring more dinosaur material into it.
This might be good for Valerie. One thing that I really loved that I tried was Meshi AI, which is you give it a picture, a 2D picture, and it can create a full 3D model for you. Oh, here it is. So I wanted to take this this picture. I just saw a picture of a necklace that I really loved, and I just put it in here, and the AI actually made it into a full 3D model for me, and it looks great, you know, especially when with the use case that I had in mind. All I wanted was a nice 3D model to fly around, and so yeah, so Meshi AI is another source that people might not have heard of. And again, you can think about, you know, things like copyright or whatever, but I changed it enough, I think, in my estimation, that I shouldn't get into trouble with it. But you know, if you take public domain photos and stuff like that, that's fine too. That's even better. So yeah, so if you wanted a 3D model of a dinosaur, not only are there 3D models of dinosaurs online, dinosaurs, right, that you can just get sometimes for free, right? You can actually take one of these images and you can actually at least get started with some sort of facsimile of a good thing, where, you know, if I wanted to make this from scratch in Blender, I totally could, right? It's not even that complicated, but it saves me time. That's all. It saves me hours and hours of trying to start from scratch, start from a blank page. All right, I think that's enough for now. Plenty to digest and plenty to think about. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording now so we can actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, Jeff.
This was fun.
Okay, thank you.
See you later.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, my pleasure.